experienced the loss of a loved one, you get sympathy cards. You get some sort of ceremony to close the situation. Your friends and your family know immediately what's going on, and there's generally no stories left unturned by the end of the funeral service. There's meal trains or people to bring in food. There's a constant lineup of condolences, if you're lucky. Do we give divorce the same compassion? No, we don't. And yet, did you know that when you grieve a divorce versus the death of a spouse, your brain doesn't actually know the difference? The pain that you feel about the dream that you will never have with your spouse is the same if you lost them in death or in divorce. It can be complicated in death and divorce. You can have mixed feelings for both endings. Maybe you wanted the divorce, maybe you didn't. Maybe your marriage was full of strife in either situation, and that there's a part of it that's a form of relief. Maybe not. Maybe you thought you were really happy and the divorce came as a surprise. Maybe you were really happy and then a death came as a surprise, or maybe it was planned. Doesn't really matter. Your brain knows sad is sad, depression is depression, not wanting to get out of bed is not wanting to get out of bed. And yet we treat these processes somehow like they're different. More different than alike. But they have way more in common than they do apart. And how would I know? I've had both. 12 years ago, I was divorced, and 4.5 years ago, widowed. And I can tell you from personal experience that when you grieve, you are grieving what you thought you would have and don't now. You are grieving for the parent that your children are not going to have. You're grieving for the family situation that you're not going to have in both. You're grieving for your families, and your families are grieving for you. The blessing is in divorce, nobody died. But I have to tell you, your brain doesn't know that blessing when you still have to go to your room alone at night. It's hard. And I just wanted to say to anybody who suffered divorce, I have all the compassion in the world for you. It is not an easy road. I will also tell you something that my doctor told me that I found infinitely helpful. He said, your brain doesn't know the difference between death and divorce, except for one thing. In divorce, your spouse is still around to haunt you. It's true. Divorce can actually end up far more complicated and longer lasting, especially if there are children involved. So if you ever need support for that kind of loss, don't think that by looking at tips from the grieving a loss of a spouse through death won't apply to you. They're very, very similar. As always, seek out help, seek out conversation, tell people how you feel. And I'm sorry if they don't always react with the kind of compassion that they might if your spouse had died. Go out there, find some joy today, have a great one, and we'll see you here next time.